Hello, everyone. Welcome in here to Southeastern 14. It is SEC Game Day. Yes, your game day morning show that has no politics, no celebrities that have no idea what they're talking about, no silliness with people that you would rather not see that have been, joined on ESPN and things like that. It is all about SEC football right here, guys, and we are pumped, excited for a SEC Week 11 slate that has terrific games like Georgia taking on Ole Miss tonight in Athens with the SEC East on the line, ability to clinch. If Georgia wins that game, Alabama would clinch the West, so we would have our SEC championship matchup going forward. That is a huge deal there. Of course, Alabama has a game of their own going on the road to Kroger Field at Kentucky early on, with Kentucky trying to show that they can play a little bit differently in some of these big games than they have already this year. And then you got Tennessee and Missouri, a terrific matchup. Auburn goes on the road and is taking on Arkansas. So many games that we're going to go through here. But guys, make sure that if you are doing any kind of betting today, any kind of wagering, you need to check out our friends at Bet Online. The last of the major pro sports, guys. The NBA has tipped off is rolling. College basketball is going. Of course, we've got NBA or NFL, college football action going on. UFC, the NHL, it's all going on right now. And it is Bet Online is the place where you need to go to be your number one source for wagering news, odds, trends, predictions. Of course, the places where you can place your bets. All the hoops betting action, along with every sport, is available at your fingertips with a desktop and mobile access at any time. Head to Bet Online today and remember to use our promo code BELIEVE. We're part of the Believe Network now, so you can use the promo code BELIEVE. That's BLEAV for your 50% welcome bonus on your first deposit. Bet Online, where the game starts. So there's lots of places we could start, and we've been jumping off right into Georgia and Ole Miss at the start of every show this week. But let's go ahead and hit on a couple of these other ones that we won't spend quite as much time on. We'll start with Florida at LSU tonight. Jaden Daniels he's projected to play even after that big hit from Dallas Turner. It was in concussion protocol, but they think he's going to play. This spread started to creep up throughout the week. Listen, Florida just doesn't have the Jimmies and the Joes to be able to go in right now into Baton Rouge and win this game at night. There is the LUC factor that I like to say, the LUCs in LSU, the liquored up Cajuns in Baton Rouge in that stadium are going to make a big difference. There's going to be a lot of momentum there for LSU, especially with Jaden Daniels being able to actually play in that game. They'll be excited. They'll be pumped up. They'll want to get out and support their Fighting Tigers. I just don't think Florida defensively tackles well enough in space at all to be able to slow down this LSU offense, especially with Logan Diggs being out for this game at running back. It's going to make LSU, go to the air a little bit more, and that's not good news for Florida. So I think you'll see Malik Neighbors, Brian Thomas, Kyron Lacey, Mason Taylor have humongous games here. I think Florida will score some points. Obviously, that LSU defense is atrocious in many aspects. They're not very disciplined, not very gap sound. So I could see maybe Trevor Etienne or Montrell Johnson moving the ball a little bit, helping Graham Mertz out, getting a run game going, and then Graham Mertz hitting a couple of shots here and there. But I don't think they'll be able to do it consistently enough or to keep up with LSU. You see that over under 65.5. So they expect the people out in the desert, they expect some points to be scored as well. I think there will be in this one, and I think LSU wins it in a big, big fashion. Auburn at Arkansas. Listen, I think when it comes to both of these teams, I can't say enough. I think both have really good head coaches. I like Sam Pittman a lot. I know that they've lost a bunch of close games this year, but I think that team still believes in Sam Pittman. You look at the result from last week, okay? Now, was it some false hope, or was it, hey, getting rid of Dan Enos and changing to Kenny Guyton and doing some of the strengths that we do best, with being able to run Rocket Sanders, run KJ Jefferson, move the pocket a little bit, get some more life into that offense, get the ball out on the perimeter a little bit more, things of that nature. Is that something that Arkansas can do consistently going forward? We're going to learn about that today. I had a high school coach that used to tell me, hey, the true measure of greatness is consistency. So it's one thing to do something one week. Can you do it back-to-back weeks? So we're going to see if Arkansas's offense can step up, particularly that offensive line. Listen, Auburn is good on defense now. I'm telling you, they're one of the better defenses in terms of their style of play, how they fly to the football, how they tackle, things like that in the SEC. It hasn't been Auburn's defense's fault that they've lost some of these games that they lost. They lost 7-point game against Georgia, 7-point game against Ole Miss. And you can't blame it on the defense on either one. It's been that struggling offense for Auburn. Now, Peyton Thorne has been the guy for the last couple of games. They've cut out all the rotating and things like that. We've seen some development in that passing game. Can he pass consistently enough? Can those wide receivers step up and the tight ends step up consistently enough in that RPO style of system for Hugh Freeze to allow them to extend drives, to have success on third down, and then when they get in the red zone, give them an extra element? Because you know that Travis Williams defense for Arkansas is going to be ultra aggressive. They got guys on the back end like Dwight McGlothern who they feel can cover one-on-one in man coverage scenarios, and they're going to put people up in the box and try to stop Jarquez Hunter and that Auburn run game. So I think it's incumbent upon Javarius Johnson, Jay Fair, Hooks, Rivaldo Fairweather, all those guys to be able to step up and make plays for Peyton Thorne, and Peyton Thorne to have confidence to deliver the football. It's been tough sledding for that passing game. And when Peyton Thorne's been on, the receivers have been off and vice versa. So can they get together on the same page? But Arkansas is going to try to make Auburn one-dimensional, as so many teams have this year, where they have not been able to pass the football, and then they're going to just try to load up and stop the run. So we'll see if Auburn is able to combat that. That's a big deal there. I think I'd like to see Arkansas at home here. I just want to see, can you run the ball with Rocket Sanders and KJ Jefferson again? Don't try to get crazy. Do what you need to do, and then be able to take what's given to you in the passing game there. So Arkansas they need to win out. They need 3 wins here in a row. They need Auburn, they need FIU, and they need Missouri to make a bowl game. Auburn can become bowl eligible with a win as well. So that is what is going on out there in Fayetteville today. Mississippi State, Texas A&M. Listen, this is just plain and simple. If Jimbo doesn't win this, I don't know if, even with a buyout that's huge, I don't know that he can survive it. He needs to win, and I think he needs to win going away. Boogie Watson, Jet Johnson play about as hard as any linebackers in the country for Mississippi State. There's just not enough help over there. And, we saw the Texas A&M offense against a Ole Miss defense who is far more athletic and has far more depth than Mississippi State does, have success on the road against that Ole Miss team. Max Johnson, even as long as it takes plays to develop in this Texas A&M offense, it seems they were able to, find some receivers, and that was without Evan Stewart. So will Evan Stewart be back? Who knows? We'll see. We'll see what his status is. He was an unexpected scratch there last week. So, but they still have guys like Anaya Smith. They still have guys like Reuben Owens. They still have guys like Amari Daniels. Who knows if Le'Veon Moss, I think Le'Veon Moss is going to come back from that knee injury or that leg injury that he sustained in the Ole Miss game. But they just need to take care of the football, play the aggressive style of defense that they do, and win this one convincingly. They're an 18-point favorite at home, night game, Kyle Field. They need to be able to take care of business against a Zach Arnett coached Mississippi State team that has no identity offensively. Woody Marks and Will Rogers probably not going to play in this one. And, they just need to be able to stop whichever quarterback is in there for Mississippi State, because there's been zero success through the air for the Bulldogs while Will Rogers has been gone. So that matchup, I expect Texas A&M to win big. If they don't, then just go ahead and check what the price of oil is, because people are going to be starting to just get that money together, that collection fund together, to start buying out Jimbo and all those assistant coaches. I don't care if it's $100 million or whatever it is. When you add up all the buyouts of everybody on staff and stuff, if this game goes south for Texas A&M, it will be ugly. They cannot lose this game. Alabama at Kentucky, guys. 11-point favorites, the Tide are. Jalen Milroe just had a huge breakout game, and now Brad White and Mark Stoops have to come up with a plan to not only thwart those explosive plays that Jalen Milroe has shown a propensity to hit down the field this year, because Alabama has increasingly become more of an explosive shot play offense, where they try to lull you asleep with Jason McClellan, with Roydell Williams, with Jam Miller, and then hit those shots to Jermaine Burton, hit those shots to Isaiah Bond, hit those guys down the field. Kendrick Law has become an emerging presence for Alabama. And then, of course, Jalen Milroe's legs are there as well now, an added dimension to the Alabama offense. And when you have an athlete like that at quarterback who can take over with his legs at any time, you have to have a actual plan to combat that. LSU did not last week. LSU just played man coverage. They didn't even have a spy on Jalen Milroe half the time. They were undisciplined in their pass rush. It was not a good deal there for the LSU Fighting Tigers defensively against Alabama. Now, how will Kentucky go about doing this? Well, they've got guys, Trevin Wallace, JJ Weaver, experienced guys who have, been through the battles, been through the wars there for Mark Stoops. They get a home game. They get an opportunity to get an early kick there, maybe catch Alabama sleeping a little bit, but they have to be disciplined in their pass rush, not go past Jalen Milroe, try to kind of contain him inside the pocket there and not create either vertical or horizontal seams for him to run through. So they have to be disciplined. I wouldn't be surprised if you see Mark Stoops, use different guys maybe from that linebacker unit, or a safety star type person come down and be a spy at different points in time, mix up who that guy is. Just to change the picture for Jalen Milroe a little bit. Of course, Alabama is way more talented. They have more depth in this one. My question is, are they going to be able to handle, maturity level? This is Nick Saban we're talking about, so you would think he would be able to get his team to respond even after a emotional win. Sometimes when you get up for a big rivalry game like that, and have a lot of success and things like that. So how do you handle that success? Alabama of 2, 3, 4 years ago, I'd have no questions about. Now I'm just wondering, early kick, how interested are you on the field, on the road at Kroger Field? There's still a lot out there in front of you. Like I said, Alabama doesn't have to win this game to clinch the West, but they have to win this game to do everything for their college football playoff hopes going forward. And I think Alabama is one of the more dangerous teams in the country now. So can Devin Leary, who has gotten better and better in these last couple of weeks, can he have some continuity there, have some success with his passing game to Tavion Robinson, to Dane Key, get Berrien Brown involved early, because all that's going to help out Ray Davis. These teams are, in terms of the stats of rushing the football, they're about right there in the middle of the pack in terms of rush defense. So we'll see who's going to be able to run the ball first. And then secondly, penalties. Kentucky gets a lot of penalties. They average 7 penalties for over 60 yards a game. Can they be more disciplined, not get those penalties, especially after the whistle penalties, dead ball penalties against them? That would hurt them a lot as well. And then turnovers. Kentucky turned the ball over a lot in September, not as much in the month of October, and none so far in November. So they're starting to take care of the ball a little bit better. They'll have to do that in this game. But Alabama, like I said, there's a reason they're a double-digit favorite, and we will see how the Crimson Tide play on the road with an early kick, things like that at Kroger Field this week. And I think Kentucky, I liked them coming into the year. They're due for a really, really solid performance. They had one against Florida earlier this year. Can they similarly run the football and protect the football in this game against Alabama? It remains to be seen. Tennessee is a 1.5-point favorite on the road at Missouri. We don't know if Jabari Small is going to be available for this game or not. He's questionable coming in here, but they still have talented backs there. Of course, they have Jalen Wright. They have Dylan Sampson. Joe Milton has been more and more apt to use his legs as the year has gone on, and I think he'll need to do that. I think he'll need to pull the ball down and run it some to keep this Missouri defense off balance. This is a Tennessee team that in years past has just ripped off huge plays over and over again against Missouri. It has not been, especially with Josh Heupel as the coach, it has not been a good matchup for Eli Drinkwitz and company. So how will that carry over to this year? I think this is a different Missouri team. It's hard to go into Como and play. But Luther Burden, they're saying he's anticipated to play in this game. Now, does that mean he's going to be 100%? Who knows? But 85% of Luther Burden is better than 85% of receivers around the country, right? So I think that's a big deal because Tennessee is very, very bad in pass coverage. I mean, with Kamal Hadden out for the year, they just don't play well on the back end and give up a lot of big plays. So how will Luther Burden be able to impact this game? Tennessee, like I said, they're giving up averaging 222 passing yards a game given up, and they just have too many busts, too many things like that. But one thing Tennessee does do is they are very, very aggressive up front. They're a penetrating style of defense. They create a lot of havoc, a lot of sacks, a lot of tackles for a loss. That is a different style than Missouri faced in Georgia. Georgia's more of a boa constrictor. They're going to cut down all the space and just not let you breathe type defense under Kirby Smart. Josh Heupel and Tim Banks' defense there at Tennessee is more about making something happen with their pressures, with how they are more of a instead of just pressing an offensive lineman or reducing the space, they're trying to rip past and get past that offensive lineman, shoot those gaps, things of that nature. So will Missouri be able to run the ball as successfully against Tennessee as they did in that Georgia game, where Georgia was the one thing they were kind of susceptible to, was that outside zone, the stretch play with Cody Schrader. So I want to see, we know Tennessee's going to line up and run the football. Can Missouri line up and run the football against them and really, just take advantage of, hey, we're going to extend drives. We're going to be methodical. We're going to go down the field. We're going to take the shots when they come to us, but we're going to be able to do things in such a manner that, we put pressure on Joe Milton on the road, that we're going to limit his possessions. And whenever he does get a chance, even though Tennessee goes fast and time of possession doesn't matter to them, the less possessions you have, the more pressure there is to score each one. And also Tennessee is awful in the red zone, guys. Their red zone touchdown percentage is one of the worst in the country, and also the dead last in the SEC. So can Tennessee be more successful when they do get those opportunities in the red zone? And if there's limited possessions because Missouri is able to run the ball and the clock runs a little bit more, and then they end up capitalizing with 7 points there at home and forcing instead of 3 points, and they're forcing Tennessee to, hey, maybe go for it on a couple of key fourth downs, maybe go in there and go for it in the red zone when they get opportunities and things like that. Then we'll see, okay, does that physicality and the ability of those good corners, Rakestraw and Abrams Drain, to kind of lock down a couple of those receivers, does that help them out be able to stop this Tennessee attack. I think ultimately you're going to have to see Tennessee's wide receivers step up because you do have those really good corners for Missouri. Joe Milton at times this year has put the ball close enough for receivers to make plays, and they've failed him. Listen, Joe Milton has missed his fair share of throws too, but there's been times where the Tennessee wide receivers, especially with Brew McCoy being lost early in the year to injury and things like that, an experienced guy, physical guy, somebody has to step up and say, hey, I'm going to make a play when a play is required. And that has been lacking at times this year for Tennessee. So especially in this big game on the road, can Tennessee put two halves together and really, really have success? You know, Florida game was a disaster. Alabama game when, you know, they started out great and then they faded in the second half. So how will they play for 4 quarters on the road against Missouri? Eli Drinkwitz and company just got to make sure that Georgia doesn't beat you twice, right? That is a real factor when, you know, teams come off of playing Georgia. It's a physical contest. They prepared for 2 weeks mentally, emotionally to try to go down there with, you know, SEC East hopes on the line, college football playoff hopes on the line, and then those get dashed. Now, how do they respond in Como at home with a 3:30 kick there on CBS? So that is a big one. Tennessee still, hey, if Ole Miss were to beat Georgia, Tennessee needs to win this one to keep pace. So they set up a SEC East championship game next week in Knoxville between Georgia and the Vols. That's their motivation to go in there and keep winning and keep trying to move forward. Speaking of Ole Miss in Georgia, the game of the week, you got Lane Kiffin's offense versus Kirby Smart's defense. It is a 7:00 kick in Athens, Georgia. Georgia's a 10.5-point favorite. Guys, there's a reason Georgia's a 10.5-point favorite. It's because they're a much deeper team and they're a more talented team. Now, that doesn't mean that Ole Miss is not capable of beating the Georgia Bulldogs. They absolutely are. However, Lane Kiffin in his career as a coach 1-19 versus top 10 ranked opponents as a coach, and it is just he kind of nuts up in those games, guys. He coaches a little bit differently. He's either, you know, hyper ultra aggressive or gets a little too conservative. I mean, there's no happy medium there. I just question, can this defense make enough stops against the Georgia offense to allow Jackson Dart and Quinshon Judkins to play with the balance that they need to have success? When Ole Miss is humming in their offense, they're able to establish the run early, and then things come off of that. They're a run to pass offense. They establish the run. And once you're scrambling to try to figure out, okay, how do we stop Quinshon Judkins, Ulysses Bentley, Jackson Dart running the football? Where do we have to fit our safeties, get an extra guy down in the box? Boom. Then here comes the shot to Trey Harris, to Caden Prescorn, to these guys, Jordan Watkins. All these guys are on the outside for Ole Miss. They've got weapons galore. So listen, they're able to hurt you. Georgia just does such a good job of communicating things on the back end in that secondary with Malachi Starks, Javon Bullard, Tyke Smith. Kamari Lassiter has, just shown up as one of the best corners in the country, the way that he blanketed Luther Burden when he was on him. The touchdown that Luther Burden had last week was not him. It was Dalen Everett. But the rest of that game, Kamari Lassiter was on him, and you didn't hear anything out of Luther Burden. So Kamari Lassiter is a lockdown corner. I think you'll see him on Trey Harris throughout this game, and that'll be a big matchup to watch there, guys. The weather could be a factor here, so we'll see how that goes. If it is a little wet and a little just a little messy down there, I think it's gonna be okay, more of a line of scrimmage type game. I think Georgia's bigger and better on both sides of the line of scrimmage, so I think that would be an advantage to Georgia a little bit if it is more of a rain type game. I just don't know that Ole Miss can slow down Carson Beck in this attack, particularly with Georgia getting Amarius Mims back at tackle. He should be able to play in this game, and Brock Bowers is supposed to play, and we're hearing to play 10, 15, 20 snaps in this game for Georgia. His last opportunity to play in Sanford Stadium, as he will be going to the NFL next year. Guys, listen, Ole Miss is a capable football team, and anybody can win on a given Saturday. But I'm just really struggling to find, in my mind, a way that Kirby Smart doesn't have his team prepared for this game, prepared for this contest. I can't tell you about the spread. That's on you if you want to decide to go to Bet Online or something like that and take advantage of that and see if you think Ole Miss can keep it within the 10.5. But I will tell you this: I do not trust Ole Miss's defense, especially with what Texas A&M was able to do last week. I'm not comparing scores or doing, transitive property or anything like that. I'm just saying that there are trends and concerns where they were able to run the football with consistency, and Georgia will stay dedicated to a run game with Dejan Edwards, with Kendall Milton. And then off of that, there comes the play action game. Georgia's very good at home. They're very good at night games at home. I think Georgia wins this one, and I could see them winning it. I could see them winning it in a big way, but they have to get off to a fast start. If Ole Miss hops out early, like some of these other teams have, South Carolina, Auburn, things like that this year, it's going to be much harder to come back against Ole Miss. But I think Georgia comes out and has a hot start. I just like the matchup of Georgia's offense versus Ole Miss's defense. I don't think that they were a pressure dependent defense. They like to create pressure, and that's where that's kind of their saving grace there. They get a lot of sacks, tackles for a loss, things like that, because they're bringing a lot of different pressures and things like that. Georgia just protects Carson Beck as well as anybody. And like I said, if you're getting a Marius Mims back, that only helps that. Where Ole Miss definitely could have some success is on offense. Georgia's got to prove that they can set the edge and they can prevent the perimeter run game. That's Chaz Chambliss. That's Michael Williams. That's Marvin Jones. That's Damon Wilson. That's the safeties and the stars, Tyke Smith, Javon Bullard being able to fit there. And Malachi Starks, when he has to come down and run the alley, they haven't done as good of a job of consistently setting the edge, filling the alley there, turning things back in. So that is an area that I think is a concern for Georgia. But overall, guys, I think Georgia has the advantage in most every matchup in this game, coaching and on the field. So I think Georgia wins this one in a big way. But guys, thank you so much for tuning in here to SEC Football Game Day. We hope that you've enjoyed us talking about these matchups. I'm not going to talk about South Carolina and Vanderbilt. Listen, if South Carolina can't beat Vanderbilt, then Shane Beamer just needs to get on out, because I'm telling you, Vanderbilt is awful, and South Carolina really needs to just continue their dominance over Vandy that they've had for quite a while now. So, like I said, thank you so much for tuning in. I hope you enjoyed this content. Remember, we're presented by Bet Online. You can check out the details in the description below. And guys, we hope you enjoy a great football game day here. Also outside of the SEC, big game between Michigan and Penn State. So like I said, thank you for tuning in. Like, subscribe, turn on notifications. All that stuff is free, and it helps us out tremendously. And guys, just get you a nice cup of coffee this morning. Enjoy all the coverage heading up to the game, and we will catch you guys for more SEC coverage of basketball. Blake Lovell has that going. Football, baseball this spring, daily coverage of the SEC right here on Southeastern 14. So thank you for tuning in. God bless and have a great weekend. Oh, happy Veterans Day as well. Thank you for all the veterans who've served. We're blessed to live in the United States of America, blessed to have the freedoms that we do. And the only reason we have them is because of you guys that have served. So happy Veterans Day out there to all the people who served in our armed forces. And thank you so much for the sacrifices you make. I'm Blayne Gilmer. This is Southeastern 14. We'll catch you guys next time.